FORTitude, Fort Worth.
Are you recording?
I am. That's our new theme song, Larry. What do you think?
Dallas Cowboys. Yeah.
You good?
All right, everybody. Welcome back to season 2 of FORTitude. Happy birthday, FORTitude, Brenton. We are 2 years old.
I know. I can't believe we made it this far. Seriously. I didn't know a prenuptial could hold up as well as it did, but clearly signing on with JW has worked out very well for me.
Well,
Indeed.
how about that?
He built me a studio. I've stayed with him, and he's given me all. I've just dealt with him, but he's built me a studio. He's just made all my dreams come true, except for who we are as people.
Things have changed, as you can see. New studio, still under construction at some level, but new digs, new setup. Everything's new here. We're going to try to spice things up. One of the particular things we're going to spice up, we have a sponsor, Brenton.
Yes,
And guess
we do.
what? It's the banking industry. Yes.
Yes.
So, a couple things about our new sponsor. We're big fans of these guys, especially the president. But Captex Bank, Brenton, do you know these folks?
I do. I know that I see them right there on 7th Street, the old Southwest Cattle Raisers Association building.
That's
They've moved in
correct.
there. And I've known Mike a long time, and he's a good guy, real good
The
guy.
Mike he's referring to is Mike Thomas,
Yep.
the president. One of the few people that is the president of a bank that you can actually call and or text anytime, day or night, and he will actually respond. The reason I know this is because after TCU upset Tech, number 9 Tech the other day, Mike's a Tech guy, so I wanted to rub it in a little bit. I texted him late at night just to remind him of what happened. You responded. So I was like, that's really cool. But
I have a mental health professional in my life that responds like that as well. And I had to do that because my wife is such a big tech fan. I wasn't sure what was happening at the house.
that person's our next guest, so
Yes.
just stay tuned. But Captex Bank is one of 2 local community banks in Fort Worth out of 60 different banks that have in this town, but they really are local to the core. Main Street. They're on Main Street. They're not Wall Street. It's a pretty good little pitch. So
Yep.
people like to buy local, correct?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you bank local, Brenton? Because that seems to be the
I never
right thing
thought
to
of that
do.
until you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
So let's, So all you guys out there, let's bank local if you can. The exec team over there, Mike included, have over 100 years of a local banking experience. So give these guys a shot. They're our sponsors. We love them. Thank you, Captex Bank.
Thank you,
So,
guys.
Without further ado, we are FORTitude, FORTitudeFW.com, FORTitude FW on social media. And we have a special guy here today, Brenton, we need to get to. Before I get to him, you know who the Cowboys are, right?
Yeah, they've got a gathering every January, February around here that they do with all those Cowboys, right?
Something like that, yes, or not. But
I was kidding you, Larry. I was saying the stock show and rodeo. Come on, Larry.
Oh, okay. I'm a little slow here. Yeah.
the gentleman you see between us, number 63 in your hearts for the Dallas Cowboys, he's ranked the 42nd greatest Dallas Cowboy of all time. Mr. Larry Cole.
I gave you the super applause, Larry.
There you go.
That applause is
Yeah.
like the soccer applause. Thanks
the
for being here.
The legend from Clarksville, Minnesota. Clarksfield,
Minnesota.
That is bad typing on my part. Our crack research team has started it off again.
All right.
Copy
all
and
right.
pasted from Wikipedia. You might contact Wikipedia after this, Larry.
Yeah.
Clarksfield,
They got
Minnesota.
a lot of stuff wrong on Wikipedia about me, but
Oh, good. We've used that
I
as the
keep it
basis for our
updating it.
questions.
Yes,
so
yes,
we'll just be corrected all day
Welcome
here.
to the show, Larry. We're honored to have you in our presence.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Those that know the Cowboys know you well. You're a wonderfully humble, nice guy. We're grateful to have you in our studio. Thank you very much.
well, glad to be here.
So
Thanks,
this guy, Brenton, just getting into his bio, he went to Granite Falls High School. That part I know is correct because I've read the book. Went on to a couple schools, but Air Force had an incident there. A cribbing scandal. We don't even know what a cribbing scandal is. Could you enlighten us, please?
Well, speaking of Wikipedia, there's a line that's a reference to a 1965 cribbing scandal, which I had nothing to do with. That was classes, 2 years before I left, and that was a real scandal where guys were breaking into the professors' offices and getting tests and selling them.
Oh, really?
Is that
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah.
Why do they get the name? So what I thought that was when they put the bar of soap in the sock and beat you up in your bunk, right? That's what I
Did that happen to you?
well, I just a crib, maybe in a crib like for my older brother, but
I don't know what that that name means with cribbing, but anyway, I finally got recruited by Utah and Wyoming and Colorado, and I went to the University of Houston for a meeting, and they took me to the Astrodome, the new Astrodome back in 1967.
It's a good selling point. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Fed me drinks and, everything, party, went out with the guys. And anyway, so they were going to give me a 2-year scholarship for 1 year playing. And I ended up going there.
Okay.
And that was, so it was, late July in 67. I went there, and after being a starter, they knew I wouldn't play. So I was relegated to being like a redshirt freshman. And God, that was, I would take on the entire offensive line, me and this other backup. So I'd take this one and this one, this one, and they'd all, get fresh meat in front of me. And it's like, gee, this is really fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got a call from Hawaii, and, my good friend Ralph Casperi said, "Oh, it's great out here. We're having a ball." And I said, "That's great, but I'm doing fine." And I was doing fine because I was proving myself there. And then the next weekend, guys were going out, and I was in my room, and I was supposed to meet him later. And he called, and he just caught me vulnerable. And I said, "Oh, yeah, God, I miss you guys." So I got up in my car and drove 2,000 miles to San Francisco, shipped my car to Honolulu, and they did so. And they had very poor equipment at the time.
Yeah.
I played the first game in tennis shoes because they didn't have a shoe big enough for me.
Wow.
And the second game I started.
What size shoe do you wear?
14.
Yeah.
I didn't, actually right now 15, but at the time it was 14.
Yeah.
And then
you're still growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. The feet grow, but I was an inch and a half shorter. But anyway, so we did that. And then the third week I was named co-captain, and we went on to have a winning season. We didn't quite win the last game. It was in one of those last second games, the way,
Yeah.
so many of the games go these days.
You learned to surf there?
Body surf.
Yeah.
But
I'll bet you could ride some big waves with that body of yours.
At Makapu Beach. That's where to do the body surfing. But as far as the other stuff, no, I was never good in the water.
I like the body surfing too. I had these hand planes, like little surfboard it's a big 70s thing. I let somebody here on the podcast borrow some to go to Florida. Yeah. And he returned and he didn't have those with him.
Larry, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Come on.
Why did I do what?
Why did you take his hand planes? You want to go ahead and tell him what the pedal steel while we're still
go
fresh?
Ahead. Next question,
so
please.
Larry, Hawaii transitioned into you being drafted.
Yes.
This is where all the legendary stuff comes. But you're drafted 16th round by the Cowboys at a pretty awesome time to be drafted by the Cowboys. You weren't actually expecting to be drafted, really, but you thought maybe if it goes, you would. If you didn't get drafted, you go off and start a real career, right?
Yeah. Well, what happened is we got through the season, we lost to Utah in the last second, and that was, and that I just kind of, that's it. And I just said, and then I played in the Hula Bowl, and the way I played in the Hula Bowl, I said, I think I gave up all chances to make the NFL because Larry Zonka was on the other team, and he dragged all of us for about 10 yards. Of course, we couldn't blitz and, have a normal defense. So Ron Yeri, my teammate and good friend Blaine Nye, and I were the tackles, and they didn't do much better, and they ended up being offensive guard and tackle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Cowboys call. Finally, you find out, you call, and then you're in Texas now.
Yeah. Well, I made a decision. First off, I watched the NFC or NFL championship game between Green Bay and Dallas.
Yeah.
And it was 100 degrees warmer there, than in Green Bay. And but anyway, I jumped up because I grew up as a Packer fan, not a Vikings fan. And so anyway, that happened. And then Cowboys had called and said, was anybody else interested? And I said, well, the Chargers and the Rams had inquired a little bit, but, none of them talked to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gil Brandt, he just kind of left it. And in my mind, I said, if I don't get drafted, I am not going to go as a free agent. And I had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers send me a contract for $10,500. And Cowboys contract was $15,000 with $2,000 to sign. And since I didn't have a job in Hawaii at the time, I took the $2,000 so I could pay off my bank loan for the car.
Oh yeah,
because I had to borrow against the car to finish college that spring. And anyway, but that was kind of it. And my good friend Mike Rangel, he signed a free agent with the New Orleans Saints, and so he didn't make the team, but he was on one of those minor league teams, Orange County something or other, and that played there. But the next year he did make the team. But anyway, he did the cooking. I bought the meat. He kind of disciplined me to get ready to play, and then I went home after the end of that semester. Went to my family home and get my feet back on the ground, because when you're in Hawaii, there's a lot of temptations. I don't know if you knew that.
Really? Did you get island fever living in Hawaii? I do hear people about.
You really do. I mean, I really liked it was such a, nice, the people are very nice. It's laid back. It's a different lifestyle. But we had 2 away games, and one around San Francisco and one around San Diego. And that was really great to get off the island. You drive. I mean, you can drive around the whole island 2.5 hours.
Sure.
And that gets you.
It gets real small, real fast, huh?
It does. And I'm from a rural area in Minnesota, and I like big open spaces. But we got back, leaving Hawaii and start driving, through Nevada and all these open spaces. It was just great back on the mainland.
That's good.
So not only did you get drafted by the Cowboys, you end up playing. You're one of the first 3-decade members of the Cowboys from 1968 to 1980.
Right.
176 games played, 130 started. I believe 14 as a rookie. Correct?
I started the 4th game, and I think we had.
That's what your book told me, Larry. So
okay,
sure.
All right. Well, then it's been researched, because my mother kept a scrapbook, and so whatever I said there, that would be right.
So that's just scratching the surface. You played in 5 Super Bowls for the Cowboys, 2 of them victorious.
Right.
You're part of the Doomsday Defense number 1 and number 2, and that's what I wanted to start there.
Yeah.
That Doomsday Defense 1 or 2, and you tell us which one we could talk about with you, but. What does that feel like to be called part of the greatest defense to ever play the game?
Well, it means a lot. And when I get back and, to reflect on it, we did it the hard way with winning that first one. And this year's Cowboy team reminds me a whole lot of my rookie year. I mean, we beat the crap out of the poor teams. And then when we got, just someone that was good, like Cleveland or Baltimore or something like Pittsburgh at the time. We would lose those games. And so anyway, the next year we got blown away again. And so there was they wrote the book Next Year's Champions, and it was, I had egg thrown at my front door that I was going back to finish college in Minnesota. So I got up and left town, didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And, but it was tough. And then we had that, the famous, 38-0 loss to St. Louis in 70. But after that, it was like Landry backed off on, hard sell thing, wanted the players to have more input. It was just a determination that, damn it, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I was a big part of that. I mean, I even, had a son born, and then 9 days later, because we had lost the previous game, old Ernie Stotner, was doing a drill, and I ended up breaking my arm. And, you talk about medical, so they go in, and, Ernie didn't want anybody, go there, and, this was hurting. And then, they taped on a little thing, and then I really broke it in half after I went back out there.
Jeez.
So I was out for four weeks, but I got back on the field enough time for the playoffs.
You think that's what changed you? Is you got the birth of a kid, and then you got that 4 weeks away, and you probably say to yourself, hey, this is serious, because you probably changed like the rest of the team, but something changed in you probably too.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I give Leroy Jordan a whole lot of, help for this. It was like, forget, we're kind of brought up, just do what the coaches say and we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, not really. You have to take personal responsibility for and keep your teammates, accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we started doing. And then we got to our playoffs again. And it's like, okay, we lost the last two, and just got blown away by Cleveland. This time was different. And we played Detroit. And the game was going down, to the end where if they just had one drive, they would beat us.
Yeah.
I think, we were ahead in, 3-0. And then George and Bob and I, got a safety. We got the ball back and, it was still down the end. Mel Renfro made some great plays. And so that was, those were different plays that you made. And then the next week we played San Francisco for the championship. And I blocked Brody's pass, just tipped it. So Leroy got a interception on the 8-yard line. We took it in to score. Now, I can, being critical of the Cowboys, I think they got all the ingredients, but it just drives me nuts is that, they get this big sack. They're all excited.
Yeah.
Wow, look at me. And then I jump offside the next play.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work. Make each other accountable. I've been, Micah Parsons, I think he's going to be the next Ray Lewis because, in fact, I saw on TV last night, Drew Pearson was doing some promotion with him and some, fight or something like that. But he said, Drew said he gets it.
Yeah.
Well, Drew got it. He's, that you got to make plays. It is in the NFL, I had a lot of turnovers and I remember there was a quote from Landry. It's like, well, it's really, I got first 2 touchdowns in rookie year and all that kind of stuff. And is that just luck? And he said, no, not necessarily, because momentum changes in the NFL are more important than they are in, say, college football.
Yeah.
I feel like you have an opinion on the current state of the Cowboys. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, but let me ask something real quick because it's almost like you can remember such specific points. I mean, can you almost remember what you say to those guys during those times in the huddle to make them accountable? Like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing?
We had a theme, keep them out of the zone. And actually before the playoffs, we played Cleveland again and it was muddy again.
Oh, you played on grass then?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, Cleveland Stadium was always mud.
Yeah.
And then it rained like hell in Dallas the next year when we had the home game and we lost. And this time it was mud again. But players like Dave Edwards, another guy, kind of in that, second tier category, he made a key interception. And, Leroy made it's different guys that made different plays.
Yeah.
That were George Andre, got an interception, on the game just before going, to the Super Bowl to beat Miami. I mean, it's like, these are the things, you rely on your star guys, but if they're covering the star guys, other people need to step up and make the play.
Yeah. I imagine you're wondering who all these names are. I just can imagine all these names.
I have them all under this Captex hat that I'm wearing.
That is a lovely hat you're
we
wearing.
have this new studio, Larry, and the lights are so bright that somebody who is follically challenged like myself has to wear our sponsor's hat.
I got you. Yeah.
You don't suffer from that ailment, I don't see. You still have some blonde locks.
You got that Nick Nolte look going. I like that, Larry.
I know. And my brother and my dad, they lost their hair when they were like in their 50s. And it's like, for the life of me, I don't know why I still have it.
Are they as big as you are?
My brother is.
Yeah.
My dad was shorter, about 6'1".
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Well, for those days.
Yeah.
But I've got a cousin. I got 27 Norwegian cousins on one side, plus 3 siblings.
Wow.
And one of my cousins is 85 years old and he's 6'6".
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, before we get off topic too much, you brought it up twice now. There's a couple really things you're known for during your career, but you brought him up twice. Tom Landry. I know Brenton knows Tom Landry. For us who don't know what that was like, can you explain in the simplest way what it's like to play for a guy like Tom Landry?
Well, it's amazing, how people over time, like Dwayne Thomas and Tom Henderson, that were just, really, were, going through things themselves, and how Tom Landry, always gracious, always a Christian, went back and, tried to help them out, the best they can. And he's that type of guy that you want in charge, steady leadership. He was not a rah-rah guy, but I don't like rah-rah guys to do it all on emotion. You got to do it on preparation in the NFL. And George Allen, he was a good coach, but, he'd get all these veterans, and by about the, December, he's got them all worn out. So when they hit the playoffs, they were kind of shot. But, he got through that one year that, beat us. And that's probably, this was in, 72, when just after Roger, made that great comeback in San Francisco. But other than that, that was about the end of his real coaching.
Is there a reason you're looking right at me when you talk about this preparation thing, Larry, as if I don't prepare enough? Is that
you might feel sorry for you?
Well, I'll leave that to your shrink.
Larry, I really want to get more of the Tom Landry stuff, but one of the funny things, he just triggered a memory, but they called you Bubba. What? How did that come about?
Well, Dave Edwards was the one that always assigned the names to everybody. And everybody had to have a name, I forget all the names right now, okay, but everybody had a nickname, and Dave Edwards was the one that gave it to, but it was like, Bubba, and it was kind of like, but then when it got to Randy White as a teammate, 7 years later, Bubba Frank, he liked that, in Texas, you got to have two names, Joe Don Looney and that type of thing.
Very good.
You don't know who that is, do you?
No clue. No.
I'll tell you after the show.
But I like nicknames.
Yeah. There you go.
But safe to say you love Coach Landry.
Yes.
Like a dad.
Well, the thing about him, I trusted his judgment. He got on me, a number of times for things that, it wasn't my mistake, but, and he was a military guy, and I, respected that. I came from, the same background. You understand chain of command and that type of thing. And I, yielded, to him, and it's like, whatever you think, coach, and whatever. But if you gave him 2 weeks to do a game plan, he could, beat anybody.
Really?
Yeah. And it's, say beat anybody. It was like that extra preparation time gave him so much more than the weekly deal.
Right.
But it just, it was just go smart thinking, his hero was Paul Brown of the Cleveland Browns. And I played, one game where both on the sidelines, it was Paul Brown in a fedora and suit, and Tom Landry. And there wasn't any other, of that happening on the field, with the other opponents.
Any favorite things that Coach Landry ever said to you personally?
Well, in the book, he, what he said when I retired was, let you look that up. But it was, just said if he had 45 more like me, he'd never retire. And I really appreciated that comment.
Friends tell me that daily for 2 years now. So.
Well, speaking of J-Dub, can you talk about the Zero Club? Have we spoken about that yet?
No, I guess not.
No, but that's a great topic because one of us here wishes they were members of that club.
Yeah.
And you're about to tell us why. One of us maybe not. So.
Well, it all kind of started when we went to our second Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And they had press day. And, you meet on the football field, and, national press from all over is, looking you up and talking to you, and they're talking to this guy and this guy. And then all of a sudden we're seeing, my God, they're talking to the specialty teams guys too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they were more, probably, engage them so that they could get a little press. And then we're looking around, and then Lane and I and And Pat Toomey and I were just sitting there looking at each other. Well, anybody want to? No, talk to me. So that's kind of how it all got started. And then, there were many, talks on it, from training camp. It was just, it's boring if you're, to stay in the dorm and if you didn't feel like going out and partying and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you're sitting in the dorm and the rookie kids are out, partying, and you're sitting there, and finally we got a ride from a rookie to go down to the local bar to at least have some, social life. And anyway, that was a phase, for, 2-3 years. And then, Blaine retired, and then, and Blaine was my roommate for 7 years, but then Dee Dee Lewis was my roommate, and only thing him and Blaine had in common is that they both dipped snuff, which I hated because my dad did that for 50 years.
Yeah.
And it'd blow in my face sometimes from the front window to the back window.
Larry, this is a children's show too. We can't talk about.
Did they ever kick over the spit cup, Larry, in the rims and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. And but Dee Dee, he was, of course, he was a big Willie Nelson fan. And,
okay.
My heroes have always been Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
He loved that. But he also, he had, some other artists that were pretty good. So I kind of cut on that, but he couldn't sit still. And so I went with him a number of times out, and, just some people can just be busy doing nothing.
Right.
I usually can't, but
For sure.
It helps to have a friend that is.
The unofficial motto of Zero Club was "Thou shalt not publicize."
Yeah,
or "Thou shalt not seek publicity." Excuse me.
Yeah,
in the world of social media, that doesn't probably work these days, right?
Until you retire after you're 75 years old.
Right. Fair. Yes.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yes. A couple of your plays we need to mention. Things you're known for. Early on your rookie year, you had 3 pick sixes back to back against the Redskins.
Right.
Magically, it was against your big rival, the Redskins. Then famously, 11 years pass, you had another one, number 4. So defensive tackle Brenton, 4 pick sixes is really unusual, and all against the same team, which is even more magical. So that's a really special thing. I can't imagine what it must feel like to do that, especially against the hated Redskins.
Well, it was, it did the first 2, and, the first one, it was, Jethro, Pugh and Bob Lilly that forced the quarterback, and I was getting blocked on the play, and I was so close to the line of scrimmage, the ball pops up and it's in my hands. It's like, well, I played basketball, and that helps.
Oh yeah.
Jethro had all kinds of opportunities, but
they got that stickum back then. They have stickum then.
Yeah, but we didn't use stickum. But you got big hands, and it's looking in the ball, and if it's there, take it.
Yeah.
And so I just walked in. But the next one actually was a picked up fumble that George Landry caused Sonny Jurgensen to fumble, and then I ran that in.
Okay.
And the third one was a blitz, and I faded to the left for my coverage, and I intercepted the ball and took that in 41 yards. And then after that, there wasn't a whole lot. But when I did that last one, it was my final year, and I knew, I didn't tell anybody, I knew this would be my final year. But I got there, and quick thing is, move quick, because I wasn't that fast. And so you hurry up with the element of surprise and get in the end zone before they can react to it. But early in the year, Too Tall Jones was, he wanted me to hand him the ball, and it would have been a forward lateral. And it's like, no. And I could have probably had another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this time when I got to the end zone, the first one I looked for was Too Tall, and then I sidestepped him so I could spike the ball. Because I wanted to actually spike a ball. I never did that in my career. And
the left-handed spike.
Yes, exactly. And the crowd loved it.
Oh, that's great.
Britt,
great.
Can you imagine why they called him Too Tall Jones? Just a little quiz on the show. Yeah.
No.
Another one of your big plays, you knocked out Terry Bradshaw on his famous pass to Lynn Swann. There's a great video, great picture of that. Obviously, he did this. The Steelers get ahead. They're led by 11, I think, and the Cowboys come back to win because Bradshaw was out of the game at that point because of Larry. That's a really famous thing you did, a wonderful thing. What were your thoughts on that briefly?
Well, it was, we had a safety blitz on, and, Cliff Harris got there, but, he got tripped up. And so he went up low to Terry, and then I, came in, and, it's, it is my job was not to rush the passer. It was first to take the block and let him through and then come. So, it was going to be delayed. And Terry was taking, quite a bit of time to throw that ball, waiting for his receiver to get open. And, I hit him, just simultaneously, at the time they got the ball off, and he threw a perfect pass to Lynn Swan. And if he had not completed that pass, Terry Hanratty was the backup quarterback, a great college player in Notre Dame, but we really felt if we got him in the game, we could pull this thing out.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things that wasn't to be. And all we can say is we won the most games of anybody in the 70s, but the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. And we only won
right.
Sure.
By the way, these are my rings.
I was
Yeah,
going to
those are
ask
cool.
you, which ones are you wearing there? Your 2 victories?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is Super Bowl 6 and 12.
Those are beautiful, Larry.
Yeah. You wear them all the time like that?
No.
Do you wear them body surfing in Hawaii?
I don't think so. Yeah, this one actually got stolen. We got robbed at our house back in like 76, and it went all the way to San Francisco.
Really?
And it came back without the diamonds in them, and because they had sold them.
Yeah.
But the Euless Police Department, worked the case and recovered that.
Oh, wow.
And,
And the diamonds too? Or no? They never got those back?
So I had a friend of mine, put the diamonds
I was
back
going
in.
to suggest it's Jay Fitzgerald, our camera guy, because he's a huge Cowboys guy.
Yeah.
Don't let him hold that before you leave, by the way. You might lose it again. He's sticky hands.
But anyway, it was like, that's almost symbolic because we had to do it the hard way to win the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, muffled and whatever, but, put it back together again. It still is my Super Bowl ring. Rather than get a replacement, this means a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And as you asked that question, the 72 team, and even the 70 team at the end there, that was the best team I played on. But the most talented team I played on was the 77 season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Randy and Harvey and, Too Tall and Jethro. I mean, it was just.
That is an all-star lineup.
Sure.
Yeah. I know.
I know those guys' names.
Yeah, I mean, we had depth, because of that. And so it was, you're talking about Landry, so they're trying to make Randy White a linebacker, he could be Buckus,
Yeah.
And then they put him outside, but we were playing the flex 4-3 defense, and Randy would have been good on a 3-2 where, he could be the whatever you call it, the edge rusher.
Yep.
But middle linebacker wasn't his deal. He just, he's more of a, line up and play. So they tried, all preseason. And then Landry comes up and says, okay, well, we're going to move Randy to right tackle and start him. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I went all through training camp, and in 1 week, he's playing that. And, but I really, like Randy, and we were, good friends on the team, teammates. So anyway, what did he do? He went on and made the Pro Bowl, and it was co-MVP in the Super Bowl. So that was a pretty good move by Tom Landry.
For sure.
And that was the thing, trust his judgment. And it really helped me, actually, to kind of refresh my body from getting worn down, playing mostly all the time.
Yeah.
And so after 77, I felt pretty sure I'd retire because that was it. But I just couldn't retire. I mean, I was, feeling so much better with my body. And so I went back and did 4 more years.
Outstanding.
Great.
Well, you played with guys by the names of Bob Lilly, TCU guy. We've met Bob Lilly several times. Randy White, Bill Gregory, you mentioned Roger Staubach, Harvey Martin, Leroy Jordan, just to name a few. I know there's a long list, but that in itself is extraordinary because you are being mentioned with some of the greats of all times. And this conversation about your Cowboys experience could go on for hours. We don't have hours, but I want to talk about your book here in a second. But you wrote a book here recently about your entire experience, which everybody should read. I've read it. It's fantastic. one of the things we got to mention a few things that after football, you were a real estate developer for 48 years, correct?
Yes.
Are you retired at this point?
Yes. Yeah.
To become an author, right?
I didn't think I'd become an author. Oh, what happened? I did a lot of real estate development and then custom home building.
Mm-hmm.
And then really the last 7-8 years, I really retired when I was 68, but I just couldn't handle it. And then I went back to remodeling Baptist churches at different little cities. And then I built a new church and, a new office building. But through the pandemic, I did my last building in Dallas. And I mean, it was such a bureaucratic mess.
Yeah. Successful career, though?
Oh, yeah.
Safe to say?
Well, yeah. I mean, I did a lot, developed a lot of neighborhoods in South Lake and Colleyville. I moved to Bedford in 1971.
Okay.
So, I've been a Tarrant County guy for years. But it was, anyway, I just, had time. And then I just thought back and it's like, well, my wife.
We call our wives moms sometimes.
Yeah, I know. She's my wife of 52 years. And anyway, she was trying to get me to write a book and I didn't have time. But all of a sudden, I did have time. And then I started thinking about it. And I use the word, I marvel at all the things I did with my life. I wanted to do everything and curious about everything and did it. And, and these were the ups and downs of it. But I covered my childhood of exactly, who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought this type of thing? Who could do this type of thing? Especially my first year, where all those good things that happened to me, including finding a bride.
Sure.
Well, the few minutes we have left, Larry, you joined a joint concussion lawsuit against the NFL in 2012. Mm-hmm. You do not suffer from any CTE type issues, correct?
Right. Yeah, I took the tests on it about 3-4 years ago, and I don't have the problem, but we had a meeting at SMU, and, they had brought out speakers, and, a lot of our teammates, that, were having it, and we just felt, those of us that weren't affected, that, we would join the lawsuit because this was important. The care and the understanding in those days was not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't all their fault, but, it was like, you get the smelling salts, how many fingers do you see? And, it'd say one, and it's like, okay, that's good enough. Back in there,
Nice.
But you went to the bench and, you went right back in. And, it's fortunate for, Roger Staubach to not have any effects when, he got, hit in that play right there. And, Troy Aikman took a beating too.
No doubt. I saw in the book, one of the things that caught my interest was one of your favorite restaurants is Edelweiss.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious and great.
That's still open?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry it is, but Burns not there anymore.
Were you friends with Burnt?
Burnt Schneerzinger. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, he catered my first development, barbecue, a grand opening at Terra Plantation, which is in the book.
Oh, very good.
And it was... my family, mom and dad just love, coming here. And, my mom is German and my dad's Norwegian.
There you go.
But it's the all, folksy stuff and the music. And we had lots of fun in those days, just going out. And then we'd go to the Ramada Inn afterwards and guy would do a little, show there and sing and all that stuff. And, and it was run by an old high school teammate of mine.
As quickly as you can tell us, how did you celebrate your Super Bowls? What'd you do?
Well, the one we won, we got in a car and drove to Las Vegas with friends of ours, and then I get
for the shows.
Huh?
For the shows.
The shows.
Yes. Siegfried and Roy, the shows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not those shows.
I was on stage with Don Rickles and he made fun of me. So,
nice.
Yeah, I know. But I was a Super Bowl champion. It's like I didn't care.
Sure.
But anyway, when I got there, I got a call that I could do. They wanted me to go to Hollywood and do a Dep hair cream commercial, and so and they were they paid me $500.
Oh, nice.
Big dollar. And so my friend. We took our car and he had to drive it back, but him and his wife alone. And then we flew on to there, and they did it, and they didn't even use depth. They just put this grease on to give the before and after look. And it was in Esquire magazine like one time.
Oh, really?
And so the Zero Club, it's like, it's like, this isn't going to go anywhere.
That got you out of the Zero Club, didn't it? Because you got publicity.
No, it didn't, because it only ran one time.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't get there. And then going to training camp, Bob and Jethro and George and I did a Goodyear commercial, and it was, we drove a sled of spears into tires, and that was on, Monday Night Football. And that was only like 2 times they ran it, and then it was over with, because it was just a stupid
We left so
idea.
much on the table, but luckily, living the dream on America's team.
Yeah.
Yep. Real quick, we end all the shows with the best day of your life. No family stuff, just what the best day was.
Well, it'll have to be winning that Super Bowl after all those years. It was a relief.
Yeah.
That we won it, rather than, instant, deal. And then when we won the second one, it was like, it's like, I know this.
Great.
Larry, we've enjoyed this conversation. I know we left a lot on the table, but we're grateful for your time. Your incredible story. The book's fantastic. I need to thank Gloria Surratt for introducing Larry to me. Thank you, Gloria. She's an amazing woman, and we're grateful that we have her in common. Thank you to Captex Bank.
Thank you, Captex
our brand new
Bank.
sponsor.
Yes, thank you.
Larry, Captex Banks make all this happen, so we're grateful for those guys.
Yeah, well, I like to do business with small banks. So
beautiful.
All right.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks for being here, Larry.
Okay, you bet.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
You're done?
FORTitude FW.